since today there is a lot of desensitization from the body, as I say, the aesthetic relational knowing allows the therapist to feel beyond the words, to feel for the client somehow, so to perceive the situation they are sharing. The self is a process. I think this is very different from other approaches. So the aesthetic knowledge tells me a lot of information about the relational schema that the client is used to. I think that life made me change a lot. And also big losses of my life changed me a lot. Among the thousands of feelings that I can have in front of this client, I just have this feeling of being desensitized. How come? So there is something in the life of the client, in the presence of the client, that makes this feeling figural for me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bhakti Bala, and this is podcast SEBE. The main aim of this podcast is inspiration and education. I have profoundly loved the Gestalt approach. For me, it's an approach that changed my life. That is why I decided to dedicate this series of podcasts, and they will be released in October, in November, with interviews with Gestalt therapists with whom we will discuss different topics that is important for our society through the prism of Gestalt. Today, my guest is Margherita Spagnuolo Lobb. She is a licensed psychologist, Gestalt psychotherapist, writer, and founder of Institute of Gestalt in Italy, which have branches in Syracuse, Palermo, and Milano. She has developed an international spread relational model of Gestalt therapy that considers the phenomenological and aesthetic soul of Gestalt therapy in a field perspective.
Hello,
Margherita. It's such an honor to have you in my podcast, and feeling grateful for your presence today with your energy. Thank you for coming.
Thanks to you, Bhakti, for this, for inviting me.
Yeah. How are you? How do you feel today?
Well, I feel hot because it's hot here, but I'm okay. It's morning here.
Oh,
I feel good energy and curious about what will come out between the two of us.
Wow, me too. You are in Syracuse, yeah?
Yes, at the moment I'm in Syracuse, yes.
Okay, before we will start, I wanted to ask you, could you tell me about yourself, a little bit about your journey, how and why everything starts?
I'm an old psychotherapist now, and I started when I was very young. I decided to be a psychotherapist when I was in the high school, and I read Freud's opera and also Joyce literature. And then when I was at the university, because I wanted to go to psychology, I studied psychology, I met professors who with many modalities. At that time, I was in Rome, studying in Rome. There were many modalities there. So I met Minushin and many other trainers. But Gestalt therapy impressed me most for its creativity, because you can be creative. You don't have to stay in a rigid schema with the Gestalt therapy. So I decided to go very soon. When I was 23, I went to the Polsters in California, and I studied there for 2 years. And there I met Isador Fromm. He was a guest there. And Isador was one of the founders of Gestalt therapy. He was from New York. He became my therapist. So Isador Fromm was my therapist, and he has been very influential in my thoughts, in my way of being a therapist. I was impressed how he could understand, he could intuit very deep feelings of mine just without words. So I tried to describe that in my theory. And when I speak of aesthetic relational knowing, I have that in mind, that experience of being deeply understood by a therapist from an aesthetic point of view. It could see many things just looking at me, So I tried to, my theory, I tried to develop his thought. He was critical about Gestalt therapy intrapsychic glands. He is a pioneer of the relational model of Gestalt therapy. And also the Polsters, Irving and Miriam Polster, they have been like parents for me, because then I invited them to Italy. So they also have been very important to me, and Irving entrusted his last book to me, Enchantment in Gestalt Therapy. And he died just last year. This year, he died this year. Then when I came back to Italy, I founded this institute in Sicily, and it was in the 1979, and in Sicily, very few people knew what psychotherapy is. So we were a pioneer there to found an institute of psychotherapy. And then people from the north of Italy came to learn in my institute. And so little by little, we founded other institutes in north of Italy. And then we founded a journal that is still alive, and then a book series, and and then maybe, I don't know how much you want me to tell about my story, and it's a long story.
Yeah. Did you dream to be a psychotherapist?
Yes, I wanted to be a psychotherapist. My family, I'm the last of two children. And my parents, my father, my mother, my sister, they're all mathematicians. So I always say to my students that I became a psychologist to understand them.
Did you understand them? Did you finally understand them?
Yes, I'm very good at mathematics, which is a rare thing for a psychologist, and statistics. I like it.
Wow.
I don't know if I succeeded in understand them, but I found my place in my family, being different from them.
Yeah. I guess it was not that easy, yeah, to be different.
I know, but in every family, we all try to be different in our family, and it's a fight to feel okay being different.
Yeah, that's true. Can you firstly briefly tell what is Gestalt and what is not Gestalt? Because I think people sometimes not sure what it is in general.
That's a very strange question, because what is Gestalt?
Because
first of all, I prefer to say Gestalt therapy and not Gestalt.
Yeah.
Because there are other Gestalt. For instance, the school, Berlin school, in 1920s, in the 20s, they studied perception, and they were academics. So the school of Gestalt in Berlin is another Gestalt. Our founders, Fritz and Laura Peirce, the German couple, they studied there, and they called this method Gestalt because they drew on that current. But it's different, and also it's not correct to say Gestalt. We have to say Gestalt therapy. And then there is another approach that is the Gestalt psychology, the theory of Gestalt perception applied to psychotherapy, and they call themselves Gestalt psychotherapy. So I think it's correct to say Gestalt therapy. What it is and what is not is I'm not interested in saying what is not, because I think that who defines him or herself a Gestalt therapist has had some experience of Gestalt therapy, maybe has read some book or had done some training. What is Gestalt therapy is written in a founding book that is written by Peirce, Efferlein, and Goodman. I mean, it's focused on this, on the, they consider the self as a process. I think this is very different from other approaches. The self is a process. It's not a stance. It's not something. It's a process. It's a way of doing things. It's a capacity of being in contact with the environment. So I think this is quite peculiar of Gestalt therapy. And so if a therapist, for instance, a Gestalt therapist looks at clients from a procedural point of view, no? Like you are doing this in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were my client, I would be interested in this
Mm-hmm.
more than in what you say. Sorry if I take you as an example, I might embarrass you, but this was just nice.
Mosquitoes biting me. Yeah.
Because when you do this, it's yourself is using this to be in contact with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting. There are many, many processes in this and looking at me, no? So we look at this kind of nonverbal language, procedural language, and we also have in mind how is the client making contact with me in this moment. So we have a clear focus of the process the client is using to be in contact with me. It's all there, what we do. And we do not think in terms of what is inside my client, what are his or her inner conflicts. I want to discover the inner conflicts. This is not a procedural aspect. It's okay. I mean, it's a good therapy, but it's not Gestalt therapy because it considers the inner conflicts and not how these inner conflicts are managed between us.
Mm-hmm. If we're talking about the role of Gestalt nowadays, yeah, it's not that popular approach as like CBT or psychoanalysis. Do you think that Gestalt is going to be more popular in the future? And which role it have now?
I mean, this is a big question. It's a challenge for us. And I can tell you that I spent all my life trying to support Gestalt therapy among other approaches. At the moment, in many countries, Gestalt therapy is not in a good state. It's not considered among scientific, let's say, approaches. It's not like this in Italy. In Italy, it's considered like a scientific approach. It's accredited by as well as other approaches. And so I think that especially in where we have more ground, like in Italy, we have more ground, in institutional ground in Gestalt, as Gestalt therapists. I think we need to support Gestalt therapy in other countries where it's not recognized as much. And in the EAGT, for instance, the European Association for Gestalt Therapy, we try to support countries, several European countries, to get a better status of Gestalt therapy, of our approach. For instance, supporting research and also good quality literature. So we work a lot about that. Usually, Gestalt therapists, we are fantastic therapists. We are creative, we are magic. But we did not spend much time in explaining what we do. Until we don't do that, it's impossible to be recognized by others. So we need to develop a language to talk with others. And this is what I try to do.
Mm-hmm. I read your book, Now for Next, and I read several articles about aesthetic relational knowing. Because I have some background, yeah. I read a lot of books about Gestalt. For me, it was like understandable. Yeah, but anyway, it was difficult. Can you like more easily explain to the people, like, to the viewers, what is aesthetical relational knowing?
Yes. Well, first of all, the expression aesthetic relational knowledge comes from Daniel Stern. Daniel Stern was one of the most important researcher in development, child-mother relationship. And he was a psychoanalyst, but he was a very revolutionary inside psychoanalysis, because he said what is important between mother and child is not the words, what they say, but it's what they do, so the implicit language. And he used the word implicit relational knowledge to mean thousands of things that the child learns to be in contact with the mother. And the mother also learns to be in contact with the child. So the way the mother feeds the baby, it includes so many nuances, so many details, behavioral details and glances and way of holding the baby that are so important. And they learn to know each other via this implicit language. I use the word aesthetic relational knowledge, not implicit, but aesthetic, because I want to underline how we can understand each other from our aesthetic knowledge. And what is the aesthetic knowledge? You know, when you look at a picture, like a piece of art, you look and you breathe looking at this piece of art, and then there is something that makes you vibrate. Art is something that makes you vibrate. For instance, this picture that I have is Kandinsky. When you look at a picture like this and you breathe, there is something that moves you, that creates something inside yourself. So when we look at the clients, our clients, we do the same thing. We look at the clients as if they were pieces of art. So we breathe and we stay there and we are in touch with our body and we let ourselves be impacted by the presence of the client. And this gives us a lot of knowledge about the client. Not only about the client, but also about the other, the habitual other. And I can make an example. A client is crying, describing how difficult it is for her to stay at work in the office, where she feels looked by a colleague of her and silently. And she feels a lot of pain for this. I mean, she feels uneasy for that. And when I look at this client and I breathe, I can feel how she's in pain for feeling like invaded by the glance of the other. But at the same time, I can perceive some discomfort about the presence of this client, and I can feel like desensitized in front of this client. So usually we think to this kind of counter-transfer emotions in terms of this is me, it has nothing to do with the client. Instead, I think that this is me, but it has to do with the client. Because we share the same field in this moment. We share the same situation. So among the thousands of feelings that I can have in front of this client, I just have this feeling of being desensitized. How come? So there is something in the life of the client, in the presence of the client, that makes this feeling figural for me. So the aesthetic knowledge tells me a lot of information about the relational schema that the client is used to. The client has learned to feel invaded by the other, has learned to feel invaded by the other, by the habitual other, who is not, who is desensitized, maybe. No? So I feel the same thing that the habitual other feels.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a phenomenological concept that can help a lot to stay with the vitality of the client, because the client feels can express her vitality through these gestures, you know, and also can help the therapist to use their own feelings, counter-transfer feelings, in for the sake of the client, to understand the client better. And the idea is that we share a situation. The client and the therapist are there and they share a situation. So what they do together has to do with both of them. It's not just a separated situation where the client is there and the therapist is here. They are connected.
Mm-hmm. It seems that the therapist need to be very, very highly sensitive, yeah, and very aware about himself, yeah. Otherwise, he can be mistaken his feelings and something that's happening in their life with what's happening with client and here and now.
Yes, the therapist has to be able to concentrate on themselves. And the concentration is a tool that is typical of Gestalt therapy. It's very crucial. Fritz Perls said that we have to replace free association, that was the psychoanalytical technique, with concentration. So the Gestalt therapist has to be able to concentrate on him or herself. And this gives a lot of information.
Yeah, this is like there is some roots of Gestalt in Buddhism, right? Like to be here and now, and this focus is also about like some Buddhist structure, yeah, with Buddhist
Yes,
I would say.
what today is called mindfulness. You know? Mindfulness is very common in the Western society, but it's very much what Gestalt therapy, it's a basic technique for Gestalt therapy.
Yeah, I think when I started to practice Vipassana, you know, Vipassana, yeah, so I think when I started to practice it, I think I understood Gestalt more when I experienced this. Yeah, not like only thinking and understanding with my intellectual side, but when I experience it with my body. So after this, I cancel all the stuff.
Absolutely. Yes, I think we should teach our students meditation, like Vipassana or concentration, mindfulness. It's a basic thing to learn Gestalt therapy.
But have you been like this from the beginning, like very sensitive, attentive, what's happening with your client, or you developed this skill? Maybe you had this, but it wasn't that developed before. So.
No, I developed it. When I was at the beginning of the university, I was very much interested in understanding human behavior and relationships. So, but it was in my mind. But then when I started to do therapy on myself, then I learned to use my body and my presence. And yes, I learned it a lot. Just to let go, also let go the mind, let go the ego of the mind and stay with the client.
Yeah, this is not that easy. Yeah. And you know, like since I was in therapy also many years with a therapist who was like Veronica, you know her, yeah, I was her client, and she was learning from you and all the therapists. And I think since I experienced this on my body, like I started to integrate it in my life, and I think this is the one of the most common thing in the clients, and for me it also was at the beginning, this suspiciousness. You know, like it's so hard to believe that the therapist is sincere and that he or she have really this generosity and like this, I don't know, compassion. How do you deal in the therapy with this suspiciousness of the clients?
I think that the society went through many phases, and the clients have, they changed in times, in decades, they changed. So today, if you ask about being suspicious, I think that being suspicious today has to do with the sort of desensitization, because people are, at least here in Western countries, people are desensitized since the beginning of their life, because how do they grow up? They grow up with a lot of electronic devices, and the parents are not so much present. They go to the school very early, and the best answer they can have with their relational needs is the electronic devices, the computer or the smartphone, so they don't have this feedback on their body, this bodily feedback on their body. Nobody hugs them. Very few people hug them. This has an impact on their body. When they have an excitement, bodily excitement, they have to calm it down, but they don't have the adult that calm them down, caressing them, etc. No, so they have to desensitize from this energy, and maybe go to internet and find their answers, but without involving the body. So very early today, the body is desensitized from their presence. And this, for me, this explains also the violence that we can see in young people today. A lot of murders with knives or also guns. So very, very cold way of killing people. And suspiciousness in clients today has to do with being desensitized, I think. Because when the client, let's say, more normal client than a client that has killed someone, more normal client, man that 40 years old man who comes because he has panic attacks, since 1 month. He cannot sleep. He comes, he sits down, and he recounts to you about his panic attacks and about the tension that he feels, and he cannot sleep. And when you ask him, sit comfortably and relax, which is the first thing that we ask to a client, they cannot do that. They didn't learn how to do that. So they say, well, I am relaxed. Or they say, I don't know what you mean. Why should I relax? I don't know. If I relax, I'm dead. So they are suspicious about being with their body, staying in their bodily feelings. So before, in other years, in previous decades, probably the being suspicious was more connected with a narcissistic attitude. Like I come here because a client, no? I come here because I have a wonderful wife, a wonderful family, but I have a lover, and now my wife discovered that, and I don't know what to do. And if you, and the therapist says, stay with your body, see what you feel. Suspiciousness is about a narcissistic perspective of not trusting the other. If I stay with myself and I feel myself, I can feel myself. I have the knowledge of that. But if I feel myself, then I feel weak in front of you. This is more a narcissistic attitude. Today, it's not like that. I think most of the young people, especially, they are suspicious, if we want to use this category of suspiciousness. They are suspicious because they don't feel anything. They're not able to feel their body. So we need to train them to feel their body, to breathe, and also look at us. Feel their feet on the ground, feel their breathing, and also perceive us. This is a mixture. Look at the therapist, feel their breathing, breathe, and feel the feet on the ground. It's a mixture. That should be very easy, but it's no longer like that. People need to try to learn this.
Mm-hmm. So this aesthetic relational knowing, like this concept, it seems that it's created mostly for the therapist. Yeah, all like I read several articles and the book, your book, and it was difficult to understand, I think, for the regular person, but like for therapists, it's more understandable, and you do supervisions, right? So did I understood you correctly that through this approach, yeah, so this concept that people therapists, they develop it in their selves. Yeah, they develop to be more aware about their body, first of all, yeah, their feelings, and then use their intuition, yeah. And then when they work with their clients, they help to client also ingrain this ability, right? So like according to the mirror neurons, so the main aim is to teach the client to do the same in the world, right? In his life, your life.
To do the same, you mean to feel themselves?
Yeah, because as I understood, aesthetical relational knowing, it's like I can make a quotation from your article, yeah, is described by three factors. It's empathy, resonance, and bodily awareness. Yes.
Yes, I agree. And since today there is a lot of desensitization from the body, as I said, the aesthetic relational knowing allows the therapist to feel beyond the words, to feel for the client somehow, so to perceive the situation they are sharing. An adolescent who sits in front of us and he doesn't say a word, and he's there because the school has sent him to us, and he doesn't speak, and he's desensitized. So what do? We activate our aesthetic relational knowing, so that we can feel the ground experience of this client, not so much the figure that we see, the silence and the rigidity of the body. This is the figure. But with the aesthetic relational knowing, we can perceive the ground experience of this adolescent, and maybe we feel worried, or we feel angry. So these kind of feelings that we feel in front of the client are aesthetics because they are based on our senses, but tell us something about the relational schema the adolescent is ready to experience in the other. Neuroscientists today, they say that our brain develops expecting something from the meaningful other. So if a child has grew up with a scolding father, when he's an adult and he goes to the therapist, he expects to be scolded by the therapist. Even if he doesn't know that, but there is something in his body, in his movements, that create this atmosphere, create this situation. And the therapist might feel to scold him because they are sharing the same situation. So this gives us the possibility to go beyond the words and to support the client, their ground experience. That is what clients need today, to be supported in their ground experience. The ground is everything that is not figure. So the figure is what it's easy to show, the silence, aggression, whatever. The ground is how they learned to do that. So that a client learned to be aggressive from a situation, in a situation where the father was always scolding him. So I think we need to cure the ground situation to change the figure. And we have to do it between us. If I feel to scold the client, this has a meaning. And when we work on that, when I try to be different with this client, my question is, how can I be a non-scolding father? What does he need? What does the situation need for me to be a non-scolding father? That's the work, that the relational work that we can do. And when I feel that I changed, that I don't feel like scolding this client anymore, then the client has changed.
Do you use aesthetical relational knowing in your life? I mean, regular life, not therapeutic work?
Well, you can use it because sometimes with friends you have some feelings, certain feelings, and when you use it with your children, it's a tragedy because that's you who created that feeling. But usually I don't like to use clinical tools in regular life. I like to separate the situations. So I'm not interested in describing how you can use the aesthetic relational knowing in non-clinical situations because it might become a manipulation. So the best thing we can say about the non-clinical situation is to have a good life. We need to have a good life as therapists, and to concentrate, to work through our life and to have a good life. This is important.
I have two questions here. How you differentiate it? First question, how you differentiate, you don't use this tool in your life, and what is good life?
When I am not in a clinical situation, I do not try to be a therapist.
How do you do this?
Well, I'm just, it's a matter of definition of myself. I define myself not a therapist. I don't want to be a therapist when I am shopping, when I am with a friend. I don't want to be a therapist. I'm very clear about that. I know that if I want to help a friend who is in a bad situation, I don't try to be a therapist. I have some knowledge of therapy, I know what is good, but I'm not a therapist. I try to be a friend.
And what is a good life?
A good life is a life when you are in peace with yourself, I think. And do you also enjoy moments of your life? You have fun?
Mm.
And you have fun and you enjoy yourself. Yes, like doing things that are good for yourself.
Mm. Can I ask what you do for yourself? What is good for you? What makes what is fun for you?
Yes, at this age, I like to swim because the water is very, very good for my body, for my health. And when I do that, I feel so good in the water. Yeah. I'm also, and this was more when I was younger, I like to dance.
Mm. What did you dance?
No, it's just a improvised dance,
Ah,
not a professional dance. But if I felt some feeling, I had to dance the feeling. So there was a need to move my body according to the feelings and also with the music, if there is music.
yeah, that sounds beautiful. Like body connection, yeah, body mind connection.
Yeah. And then I'm very curious. So a good life is to discover new things.
Mm.
Like to travel and discover new people, and yes, very curious.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. How do you stay sustainable during your work? Because this work is not easy, right? Like facing with a lot of challenges and pain of other people. And you do a lot of work. Yeah, you write, you go to conferences, you create programs, supervisions, and your practice. Yeah, so much stuff. How do you stay grounded?
But there are different things, going to conferences and writing and working with clients. I think it's very different. Working with clients, I agree. It's um, it's stressing because you need to take the pain of the clients. So you need to take care of yourself. To find the good balance. There are people who can work with clients for 10 hours a day. And I think I could not stand that for more than 2 days. So everybody, I think, has to find the good balance between doing something good for our own life and working with clients. I work with groups also. I teach. So I work with groups all over internationally. And this is different from clients, of course, because the client is one each hour and it's a new story. With the group is it's beautiful. I think I enjoy a lot working with groups, and I can work for 8 hours a day with groups. I enjoy it. I like it very much. I like to stay with people and to support them to express themselves. So I don't get much tired when I work with groups, when I teach. I think I'm also used to that. It's the most activity, the most of my activity. And I like to write. It's also something that I like. And what I don't like much is bureaucratic work when you have to do that. Yes. And thanks God, there is someone else who does that for me in my institute. I think if you do things that you like, you don't get much tired. But that's a very personal thing. You need to know when you get tired. The experience we had with the pandemic, it's terrible, because there we shared a trauma, collective trauma. And we were all stressed. And to be a therapist when you are stressed, this is very heavy. So this is a different situation when you are stressed as a therapist and you have to work. As a therapist, for instance, if you have a bad moment, like a loss or separation, you can say to your clients, I need to put my work into brackets for a while. I need 1 month to get myself back, you know. But when there is a situation like a pandemic or war, and you cannot say that because there are people who need your help, who are traumatized, and you are also traumatized. So this was pandemic was very stressing. Pandemic and soon after the war, it was very stressing, and we needed to get together in groups to share our feelings as therapists, as healers, to find a place where to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, it seems that this is differentiation of your profession in your life. It helps you to stay sustainable over every sphere, yeah, and like in practice and group practice, clinical practice, writing. So it seems that you don't even need something outside extra. Yeah.
Yes, my life is full with work. Yes.
But what is the most important step that the therapist can make towards the client?
No, you mean in sessions,
Yeah.
during the therapy. When they reach an existential intimacy, I think. So when the client feels reached by the therapist, and the therapist feels a human being that can reach the client. When they feel they are two people, like existentially naked, one in front of the other, and they can stay there and experience that they can continue to live in that situation. So I put it very generally because the question is a general question. But I think that the client has to feel that the therapist is there at a human level. And in order to reach this point, the therapist has to use a lot of techniques, a lot of knowledge about clinical knowledge. But the aim is to reach the client at a human level and to discover, Irving Polster said, to discover the beauty of the client, to discover the interest, how they are interesting and interest in life. This is what I learned from Irving and Miriam Polster. I think they are the best trainers about aesthetics. They taught me to look for the beauty in the client. And when the client feels recognized in their beauty, then I think this is the most important moment. When I say beauty, I mean something that they tried, something they adjusted creativity to, like a client, a man, 40 years old man, who wanted to hug his father and was not able to do that. And when the therapist sees that in the eyes, in the movements of his body, and he can recognize this intentionality to express in an agentic way with his body the love to the other, to the father, when the therapist can grasp this and recognize it, not necessarily put it in practice, but just recognize it. Like something like, I think you wanted to hug your father, and the client bursts into tears. This is what he really wants, to feel recognized. And then when you are recognized like this, you change, because you feel a human being in front of another human being.
Yeah, this is interesting for me. Always this question, like this profession disappeared. Yeah, like people pay money to have such kind of contact. Yeah. Is it a possibility in people's life to have such kind of contact, like with other people?
You mean because they pay, the clients pay?
Yeah, it of course it doesn't diminish the what therapist is doing. Yeah, of course we are working with ourselves, our human side. Yeah, but anyway, we cannot decline this stuff that they are paying. Yeah, for you and me and the other like therapists, so they are paying. Even it's a human connection.
Well, I think this is an ambivalence that the client usually perceives. Why is the therapist doing all this for me?
Yeah.
Because I pay him, you know, I pay him or her. So she's doing this because it's her work. I think this is typical, I don't say narcissistic challenge for the client. Why is the therapist doing this? Is she really interested in me, or she does that because I'm paying her? But if she does that because I'm paying her, and then it means that what she's doing is false, it's fake. So there's this very narcissistic conflict. Can I trust the therapist or not? I think it's something that the client goes through in a narcissistic process. But and that, just for that, I think that it's very important that the client pays, because it's not intimate relationship. It's not parent-child relationship. It's therapy. It's very important. When I can feel that my therapist is so interested in me, even if I pay him, but he's so interested in me that he understands the deepest secret of my life, then I can believe that life is worthwhile to be lived. I can believe that people can be lovely. I can open myself without suspicions.
But can these people create such kind of relationships in their lives?
Well, it's quite very different, because if I create a relationship with my partner, with my husband, then he's my husband, he's not my therapist. I cannot.
Sorry for interrupting, but it seemed that you have a better, like if the client have a better connection with the therapist than with, not the better, but the deeper connection with the therapist than in some levels, they have deeper connection with therapy than with husband, for example, or the wife.
Well, you say that if you look at the situation from a client point of view, from the point of view of the client, then something difficult is that the therapist understands you better than your husband or partner. But this is just your impression. It's not of everybody. There are a lot of people who live well in couples, who love each other, and they would never go to a therapist.
No, I'm not about better understanding. I'm about more deeper connection. You know, like some people I know, like in their couple relationships, and they don't have such kind of deepness. They
Yeah, but you don't need to have the depth of a therapist. You don't need that in a couple. A couple is a different relationship.
it's for different purposes.
Purposes, right? I mean, when you meet the couple, then you like this other person to be the person of your dreams that understands you just with a glance. And this is the idea that you have when you fall in love, that the person understands you with a glance. And then you see that it's not like that. But this process has a different aim, as you say. What you look in a partner is a person with whom to build a life together. So you expect something, maybe you expect something like you expected it from your father, that's okay. But it's different from a therapist. From the therapist, you expect to be cured, to go out from there with more relational capacity, to understand your partner better, for instance, or to stand that your partner doesn't understand you.
Okay, understand. Margherita, now and before, how did your working style changed, or did it change? Maybe what kind of advice would you give to your younger therapeutic self?
I changed a lot. I think that life made me change a lot. My children, to raise my children, to give birth to my children, and then to grew them up. This was a great experience that changed me a lot. And also big losses of my life changed me a lot. And the support that I received unexpectedly by some people when I had loss or stresses. This changed me a lot. I always tried, there is a value on my life, I think, to understand the other. So first I thought that to understand the other, I had to understand it in my mind, even if I, as a Gestalt therapist, I worked a lot on my body, I know that, but still, I thought to understand the other meant to do something, to move, to do something for the other. Then the more I grew up, the more I understood that I don't have to do much, just stay there and try to listen more than acting. And I act a lot when I work clinically. I do act, but just once during a session. I understood the value of listening and looking at where the person wants to go, instead of giving my idea, giving my suggestion. And then my children helped me a lot, because to see children, how they grow, you understand a lot about the ground experience of people, how people learn to be with themselves, to trust the others, to trust themselves and the others.
So which advice would you give to your younger self?
A younger self or younger colleagues?
Younger therapeutic self.
My younger?
Yeah.
What you mean? You imply that I should have been different?
No, just asking. Maybe you don't want to say anything. Who knows?
I mean, if I come back, if I go back, what
Yeah.
should I do differently? This is the question.
Yeah.
I think I should be more sure about myself and maybe doubt less about myself, like to say more clearly what I want to say. It seems strange to you, but it's like, this is my feeling.
Interesting. Yeah, if there is no Gestalt work, Gestalt therapy work, what would you do?
If I say it again?
If there is no Gestalt therapy work in this world, psychotherapy doesn't exist, what would you do?
Psychotherapy doesn't exist. This is very interesting. I think if psychotherapy wouldn't exist, the world would be much better, because it means that we don't need psychotherapy. It means that we are allowed to be a unified self with the world, and we don't need to separate who is good and who is bad. I think I would enjoy life.
What would you do, like work?
Like work, maybe a dancer or a mathematician.
Like your brothers, like your family.
Yes, like
Yeah, so, it was a very interesting. You have a so calming energy. I understand why so many people love to work with you. You have such a kind, like smooth energy. Even when I was listening to you, it seemed for me like I'm under your like some magic. Very like, I don't know, like calming. Yeah, so we are coming to an end, and thank you for sharing your knowledge. And yeah, this is, I think, not easy topic to understand for people. I think it's, as we said in the beginning, it's better to experience this. Yeah, but I hope people will understand all these difficult words sometimes. How to maybe use them like in their therapeutic work, some therapists. Yeah, and I have a traditional ending of the podcast. So previous guests, without knowing who will be next, they prepare 3 questions, and now I will tell these questions, and you can answer them like shortly or like as you wish. You ready?
you want me to tell you 3 questions for the next guest?
This is 2, but now I have a 3 question for you from the previous guest. Ready?
Now you have
3 questions from the previous guest.
you have 3 questions for me.
Yes.
Okay.
Previous guest. Yeah. Okay. What are the 3 personality traits you value most in people and why?
What do you mean you value most?
I don't know. It's a question from the previous guest. Maybe, I don't know, love, appreciate.
I can tell you when I feel at ease with people, at ease, when the other person breathes in a spontaneous way, you know, when I feel the body is spontaneous, the body is free and spontaneous. When I feel that there is a genuine interest and not a second agenda, and when this person is curious.
And there was like, why you value these traits?
Well, the first, the spontaneity in the bodily process is because I would also feel spontaneous, and we don't need to, pay attention to how I move. I would feel spontaneous. And the second is because I would not feel manipulated. The third is, what was the third? The curiosity, because I could go with this person like hands in hands to discover something.
Thank you. Next question. What is your most vivid childhood memory and how has it influenced your life?
the child memory.
Childhood memory, yeah, the most vivid childhood memory and how it influenced in your life.
Mm. Mm. There are so many. I'm probably having lunch at home when I was a child and solving maths problems.
And how it influenced your life.
I thought to develop another language than mathematics for my family.
Yeah, this was a turning point for you, yeah?
Yes, I wanted to develop another language, more emotional language.
Okay, if you could instantly master any new skill or ability, what would you choose?
Say it again.
If you could instantly master any new skill or ability, what would you choose?
Master an ability.
Yeah, master the new skill or ability.
You mean to teach or to learn?
I think it's like learn. Yeah, for
You're
example,
asking.
you have one skill. Yeah, for example, you have a skill, and you want to improve it all the time. Yeah.
Oh, improve it. Okay,
Yeah.
improve.
So, which skill it would be?
The social attitude. I
What-
mean, it's like going to a party without feeling awkward, or being spontaneous in a meeting of important colleagues. Yeah, I would improve my social ability.
Like social interaction skill.
Yes, social, yes.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it seems that you have a very mastered social skills.
Yeah, but I'm very shy, and when there is a gathering of people, important people, people I consider important, I'm very complex person, very shy. Yes.
Wow, I would never tell this. You look very confident and they don't have shyness.
Mm.
Okay, thank you for your time and sharing your knowledge. I wanted to thank you that you are spreading the knowledge. Yeah, you are doing so much, writing articles, books, making so many programs. And I really grateful for you that you work with CIS countries, yeah, like with Kazakhstan and Georgia, where I both studied. And I think this is so beautiful that we can also have a contact, and you can share with your knowledge with the professionals from these countries. Yeah, I hope your school will grow and you will write more books in the future, and the more people will be able to be with their body, aware about their body, and live beautiful life.
Thank you, Bala. Thank you for your curiosity, for being so curious to offer to other people who are also curious but do not do what you do, no? To offer them this possibility to know people.
Thank you. Thank you, our viewers, for watching this video till the end. Hope you enjoy it. You can follow the channel, can follow Margherita in the Facebook, and I will attach all the links in the description. And thank you for watching. Let's raise the consciousness of our society together. Bye.
Bye-bye.